you seen my kick-ass subscription box anywhere? Oh, there it is.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Canadian TV's coverage of the SIM500 Transervice Cup Series. It's back to the road courses for us tonight as we bring you the Transervice Cup stars battling it out on the historic Watkins Glen circuit. Kevin England, Tim Terry, and the guy who's always bringing it to you live, Mr. Showtime, Paul Strickland Jr., all fired up to bring you 50 laps of action. Tim, left and right tonight in a race that's timed and has no full course yellows.
Yeah, this is going to be exciting. 50 laps to run here this evening, and the familiar faces are up in front with Daniel Falkingham and Kevin King going to lead us to green. I think the one thing at least we can watch tonight is going to be Adam Gilliland. We know Adam is always strong on these road courses, but he's going to start back in 20th. This is going to be something to watch at least throughout the race as Barty gets ready to see these guys go off.
Yeah, job number one for these drivers with no full course cautions is stay on the racetrack, but just race the racetrack, race the guys in your vicinity, get the best result you can. And I watched Kevin King, sat in the cockpit view, watched him run his qualifying lap. Not a wheel off, not a bad turn, not a missed shift or anything, and still Falkingham picked up the pole by a couple tenths. So a lot of times when we come in here, Tim, we look at that 88 car and wonder how fast it's going to be, but I think the 39 is going to have a little something for him tonight.
It's just a matter of keeping with him on the long run and trying to make sure that you have something for him throughout the race. We've seen Daniel, undercut and be faster than Kevin on some of those pit stops, but Kevin blow by him at the end of the race. So I think you really need to make sure that you are good on the long run as you see the lineup on your screen and see where your favorite driver is starting here this evening. Justin Fuller, great qualifying effort in the top 10. David Comstock, great qualifying effort as well. Especially with no cautions, you really have to start up front here, or at least pick your way through traffic, which finds the Adam Gilliland starting 20th strategy without putting in a qualifying lap kind of intriguing to me.
Yeah, last week's feel-good winner, Tommy Rhyne, 11th on the grid here tonight. And I got to come back to Comstock. He seems to have picked up quite a bit here in this midsummer stretch, that car getting faster and faster. You can't count out Tyler Dalton. He's just one of those guys that's sneaky quick at some of these racetracks, and I think there's going to be a lot of interesting racing to watch here tonight at the Glen.
Absolutely there is, and this racetrack, these drivers know this racetrack. It's comfortable to most of them, so as long as that comfort level doesn't outweigh what their ability is, they should be okay this evening, but we'll see. We might be racing for third here. We know these two are up front are going to be good. We know Adam Gilliland and guys like Justin Fuller are going to be good. E.J. O'Rourke was decent at our last road course race. Now it's a matter of trying to figure out who's going to be the best of them here. We'll find out in about a half lap.
There's a love-hate relationship when running this racetrack. A lot of drivers feel like comfortable shoes. They like this racetrack. They know the turns. It's not super technical, yet in some respects, the track is so narrow at different clutch points, and you've really got to be careful, mind your P's and Q's as to who you're around and how you hit those corners, because get a little bit off the line and you could find yourself out in the tire barrier pretty quick here.
Yeah, it's just like any road course. You got to make sure that you stay on the pavement and do not have an off, because if you have an off, you're going to lose a bunch of time. Probably in the opening laps, you're going to lose a bunch of positions, and then you have to try to somehow make them all back. So you have to get up on the wheel and do that. But the qualifying effort for these guys up front is going to be aiding them. Those that start out back, you're going to have to keep your half eye on them all the way back to guys like Joey Gattina and Richard Beasley, who are starting way at the back of this field.
Car just about to come across this final corner here, make its way to pit road, release the field to Kevin King and Daniel Falkingham on the front row to get started here at our 50 laps at the Glen. Pace car makes the right-hand turn this time around. They're looking at the starter, and they drop the green. Field heads off to turn number one.
Yeah, the green flag is out now. We'll see who has the better launch into here. Do we see a three-wide move from anywhere? It looks like two. Well, here comes Justin Fuller. Goes to the inside of the 19 of Dalton and pulls his foot ahead of it again. So close call there, but nothing doing as Fuller tries to go underneath Dalton to pick up the spot.
Yeah, up front, Buckingham had the preferred line on the entry there, was able to draw ahead. Now he's got a car length as they come down into the bus stop. Everybody kind of gets single file here. For these drivers, a lot of them, best strategy is to just get that pace set, get that cadence, get that feeling of where the other competition is, and then start picking up the pace. But for Daniel Buckingham, he's already out by 30 car lengths.
Yeah, Daniel Falkingham putting up an a good early effort here with Kevin King and David Comstock. Comstock keeping right with Kevin King. He may have put the laps in, may have put the practice in this week. I know he's been hot and cold in this series, but I think right now he's got something here from at least lap number 1.
Sideways turn over there for Bob Gillenwater coming through, but he's able to straighten it out. Here he comes down the front straightaway, looking right in front of him. It is Mike Kelly peeking down underneath Pedro Mojica as they head to turn 1, see if he can outbrake him. Not going to be able to do it. Tucks back in behind the back bumper of the 58, drifts wide, and they head off into the Essex.
You can see them get back to single file racing here and trying to log some laps and maybe try to feel out their race cars a little bit here because the fuel load is going to burn off a little bit. You saw E.J. O'Rourke and Elliot Henderson battling for about 14th place there, and then trying to chase down Tommy Rhyne. Tommy Rhyne, a winner here last week on the Transervice Cup Series, and looking to back that up, albeit Iowa a little bit different than what we have here with the twists and turns of Watkins Glen International, but a great little battle here. Oh, hello. E.J. O'Rourke had a great run out of the bus stop, and Elliot Henderson kind of stopped coming out of the bus stop, and E.J. nearly got into him. Great little piece of driving by the personal comfort number 41 as you ride on board with E.J. O'Rourke. Are those... I know we can paint the gloves in iRacing, but those kind of look like EJ's hands, kind of small and kind of just trying to grip the wheel, and they did a great job on that one.
Looks like she'd be holding a gardening trowel with those.
He does work at Papa's Hardware, so that wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah. I just don't know where to take that.
No, you can take it whatever way you want to, but EJ's trying, whatever tool he has in his hand, EJ's trying to dig here and get by the 37 of Elliot Henderson. But that's the other thing, too. You kind of walk that fine line here. We talked off the top of the show a couple laps ago where you really don't want to put yourself in a position to have an off. You don't want to put yourself in that opposite position to get on one side or the other of a driver and end up in the beach or end up in the sand trap and lose 20, 30 seconds of your time because you're not going to make it back because there is no competition yellows here this evening per se, as you see Falkingham way out ahead by almost 3 seconds or over 3 seconds from Kevin King and the rest of the field. But you don't want to put yourself behind the 8 ball here. And there's Kevin. And I guess the Cox internet didn't go through this week, or they're still having hop issues because you can see Kevin back and forth here in front of David Comstock.
Yeah, for Comstock, that's got to be nerve-wracking. It's hard enough just to find the apex and whatever, but when the car in front of you blinking, you sometimes can tune that out, and other times it just becomes a distraction. Here comes Edson down underneath to see if he can take over that position. Still side by side as they go through, but Trey is going to get the advantage and streak off underneath. He's going to open the door for Fuller, trying to come down underneath. Comstock closes the door. Fuller unable to make that pass. Difficult place in the racetrack to try and find space. See whether or not Fuller can possibly outbrake him here going into the bus stop.
We've seen Justin Fuller and David Comstock both be aggressive throughout this Transervice Cup Series, so it would not surprise me if a bumper is used here as Comstock goes over the bumps the wrong way and hits the curb the wrong way and almost loses that position, but Justin Fuller errs on the side of caution. I think at least at this point right now, trying to get by David Comstock, but on the other hand, I'm sure he sees treads and get a little bit smaller in the windshield, so you have to balance, when do I make the move, when do I be aggressive, and to make sure that I don't get into him and don't ruin my race as well as his. So it's a fine line, it's a fine balance. He'll come by this time, complete lap number 4 on the racetrack, and Justin Fuller now trying to defend from Byron Daly because Daly's turned the wick up.
Tenuous moment over there on the bus stop just a moment ago for Michael Smith Jr. Car's been pretty straight and running really well, but he got in a little off on line, and the 8 car, Randy Yoakum, came down underneath, just tagged him going through, shoved him off into the grass, but Smith grabbed a handful of steering wheel, was able to get it sorted out. Maybe ding that left side, left rear quarter, but currently running in that 21st position, and the Camaro looks pretty solid as he heads over to the S's.
Yeah, Randy Yoakum has had a couple of decent runs going as Elliot Henderson now. See him on your screen. EJ O'Rourke's kind of falling off the pace a little bit. Justin Fuller goes to the inside of Byron Daly, or at least attempts to get back at Byron Daly after Daly made the move. And is that Adam Gilliland's already up to position number 8 by the looks of it, or 7, check that, working up on this battle in front of him between Fuller and Daly. So Adam is making some time up, albeit he's still about 8 seconds or so behind the rest of the leaders up in front of them.
Yeah, we expected, as you called out at the beginning, for Gilliland to be able to work his way through here. The question is, how far can he get forward? Can he get up there and challenge those top front runners? Right now, it looks like he's got a car to do it.
I think he does, but I don't know if there is still a lot of laps left to go. There's 45 laps left, but he's got to get by these two here that are battling pretty hard for position. Then he's got to reel in those guys in front of him. And oh, by the way, Daniel Falkingham is out by 4 seconds over the rest of this field. So, oh, hello, there goes the 51 out in the grass, and Adam Gilliland's going to go to the inside. Yeah, that makes it a little bit easier. You still have to breathe the throttle a little bit, but Adam gets by, so there's one pass that he has to make, but he's still going to pass 5 more cars to get up to the front and make up all that time that he lost.
You got to give a nod to Fuller to be able to control that car. When the car's off in the grass, it comes back to the racetrack sideways. Those tires get specific set of grip, and it usually yanks the car, and you lose control of it. He just kind of wrestled the thing back straight and was able to drive away. And now he's on the back bumper. He didn't lose hardly any time at all. That was a pretty slick job at recovery there for Fuller.
Yeah, if you're Adam Gilliland, you really don't want to see Mr. Fuller in behind you because Justin, albeit they are personal comfort teammates with Aftermath, but they're probably playing nice with each other. But Justin Fuller still wants to pick up as many positions as he can and get back to fight with Byron Daly. Adam Gilliland wants to get up and fight with the leaders eventually before this thing is all said and done. Looks like Daniel Falkingham the last time by might have been just a touch slower than Kevin King. Looking at the lap times, Kevin King was a 1:11.78 to Daniel Falkingham's 1:12.37. So last time by, Kevin King was quicker than Daniel Falkingham, so keep your half eye on that as we continue to work forward here, but the gap is still over 3.5 seconds.
You got trouble over there in the end of the racetrack over turn 6. 8 car, Randy Yoakum, got tagged going in, nosed the car into the guardrail just before the entry to turn 7, was turned around backwards. Back of the car all smashed in, left side smashed in, but he was able to grab a gear, spin out through the grass a little bit, brought some grass to the racetrack, but used the turnoff area over there to get himself heading in the right direction. And it's been an eventful night so far for Randy Yoakum in the 8.
Yeah, tough break for him early in this one, and especially with no cautions. If you have a bad night early, it just compounds. Speaking of compound, there goes the 51 almost into the back of the 81 of Gilliland as they come down into corner number 1. Adams trying to get by Byron Daly, but hasn't had the opportunity to do so. And you know what? Ever since Trey got by these guys that were battling for this spot, he hasn't really been able to extend the gap at all. He's closed in a little bit on David Comstock, but I think that's David more falling back into the clutches of this pack rather than the other way around.
Yeah, we watched it at Watkins Glen, or not Watkins Glen, Sears Point. Show you my age there. The 51 of Justin Fuller, the longer the race goes, the faster he gets. He just has this knack of finding speed when he needs it, and he's looking at these 4 cars in front of him, and as long as he can stay in distance, I suspect as this race wears on, he's definitely got a long-run car almost every time we come out to these road courses.
And with these road courses, too, and Justin Fuller's not the only one, but I think as you go on throughout, you learn a little bit from your competition. You try to figure out where they are running, what they are doing that might make them a little bit faster than the guy in front of you or behind you, and maybe learn a little bit of those nuances and learn a little bit about your competition. Justin Fuller backing out a little bit from the battle in front of him as you see Kevin King on your screen. Kevin King's been able to extend his advantage on third. Hasn't really been able to make a whole lot of inroads in on the lead yet, but still trying to make it happen. You can see right there, he was faster on lap number 6, but or faster 4 and 5, and then a little bit slower here and there. So just keep that in mind. It's going back and forth a little bit the last couple of laps. Kevin's been able to chip away a little bit by a tenth or so, but when you have 3 seconds, it's kind of difficult. Is Adam Gillen giving Byron Daly the business for position number 5?
But we know it only takes one slip to erase seconds worth on this racetrack as fast as they're getting around here. It's a high-speed track, so you just have to wait till we get to lap 50. But this battle just won't go away. Gillen is hounding Byron Daly. As you were calling, he's been on that back bumper looking for the opportunity, and he's slipping. The difficulty for Byron Daly is that probably makes him hustle the car a little more, and he's got to protect himself. He's driving out at the rear view instead of the front windshield, and sooner or later that causes an issue. Here comes the 81 to the bottom, and I think at some point, if you're Byron Daly, you just let him go. It's too much of a distraction.
And I almost want to say that that's probably what that was right there, because Byron and Adam, the last couple of corners, Byron was trying to keep the rear end underneath them, and Adam was just trying to keep that thing at least pivoting center off, and Adam really didn't get a great run coming off that final corner down the straightaway, just enough to get to the inside, but I don't think if Byron would have allowed him to get by, if Byron wanted to pick that fight, at least at this point in the race, I think he probably would have kept the position, but it is lap number 10 of 50. You still got a pit stop to go. Adam's got a quicker race car, so at this point, what do you have to gain by trying to keep Adam Gillen behind you on lap number 10? Might be easier said than done, but Byron sees Adam pull away by about 5 or 6 lengths here on this lap, and they'll combine, swap position number 5 at the scoring loop, and we'll see if Adam can reel in Trey and the rest of the field in front of him.
Yeah, in your head when you're in that position, you feel bad that you let the position go, but you could kind of relax and start to get back to your rhythm and see what's what. It felt like Byron was overdriving the car a little bit, trying to keep the 81 behind him. Maybe the 81 will slip away a little bit, but Byron will get back to his rhythm, get to the 81, and if the 81 can get past the 5 of Edson, then he opens the hole and Byron can follow through and gain that position. So it does look like right now he's slipping off a little bit. Could have been he overheated those tires too a little bit, trying to hustle the car around the racetrack.
The other side of the coin is that if you're Byron Daly, you got to keep it ahead of Trey Edson. So check that Justin Fuller. So there's a little bit of a game there too. Not only do you have to be on the offense to try to pick up spots, you have to play on the defense to make sure you don't lose any spots. Speaking about losing spots, David Comstock has been backpedaling a little bit. I don't know if it's as much David backpedaling as much as it's Trey and Adam really stepping up their game in the middle portion of this run. Little slip by Trey that time. Adam right on the back bumper of the on-site gas number 5. But David Comstock occupies position number 3. This is the battle for third on back. And Trey might have his hands full with Adam, and Trey pulls down to the inside, tells Adam, go on the outside, let him go. And looks like Adam's going to go on the fight and try to get by David Comstock.
Yeah, there's not much to show up front. Continues to be Daniel Falkingham leading Kevin King as we anticipated. But if we look at these lap times, I see Kevin every once in a while just chipping away at it. Last time Daniel was faster, but Kevin has been running a 10th here, a 10th there. And over 50 laps, we were talking about the distance of this racetrack because Kevin's off in the grass over there coming out of the bus stop. You know, you can, if you nick away at it at tenths, close that lap down. But I'll tell you, Falkingham, he told us when he gets to Watkins Glen he was going to be good, and everybody in the garage knows it. That 39 is on a rail right now.
Yeah, and the 10th here and the 10th there, then you maybe undercut him on pit road by a lap and gain a little bit, or vice versa. As Adam Gillen gets into the 13 of David Comstock. They're both off the racetrack coming into the final corner, and they're going to lose a bunch of positions here. There goes Byron Daly to the outside. Fuller gets into the left rear for good measure on the 81, but I think that was a case of Adam trying to sail it in a little too hot. David Comstock might have been trying to protect half the line there, and that's just hard racing.
Yeah, just a variance of braking points. The 81 drove down underneath, the car stepped out, got into the door, drove them out into the gravel, but the two of them able to grab a gear and come back in. And yeah, Fuller moment was pretty full there. I thought he was going to tag the 81. It cost him a little bit, but better part of valor there with no cautions. He would have drilled the 81 really well if he didn't yank it to the left.
And we said it earlier, keep your race car on the racetrack and don't have it off. The David Comstock, Adam Gilliland machine, that was the battle for position number 3 and 4, and now it's a battle for 5 and 6. Trey and Byron both got by, and now Adam, once again, aggressive trying to get by. We're coming up to the corner that they just had the off on 1 lap ago. Adam trying to set it back up again, looks to the inside. He's got half a groove there. David going to let him have a full groove. And he's going to do so. So there goes the 13 of David Comstock, and he's going to pick up that spot once again, coming off that final corner. Great show of sportsmanship there.
Yeah, that was a good move for Comstock, a good sensibility in understanding how hard the 81 drove in and that the opportunity was going to present for him to do the switch over there. And we said it before, David's been on his game here in this summer stretch, and he's showing them right now he means business. But I have a feeling that if he's got a mind about him there, Tim, he might want to let that 81 get by.
Yeah, the 81 of Adam Gilliland being aggressive here as they come up on Jeff Rhyne, the piece of lap traffic, and that David went a little wide down into turn number 1, I think, to avoid the 3, and there goes Adam on the outside, and Justin Fuller says, no, and Justin nearly drives right through him going down into the corner. They're side by side now behind David Comstock. They're getting aggressive for lap 14.
It's like sharks in the water here. These guys are watching the drivers in front of them drive away, and they just feel like they're faster than Comstock. But Comstock, he's got Ryan Newman on the mind. He's got the groove, and he's going to take it, and you're going to have to muscle your way past him. I'm afraid he's going to end up in the barrier if he doesn't quite play ball with these guys, but he's still holding his own.
Adam has a little bit of a moment coming off the corner, and Justin Fuller going to try to go to the outside of Adam Gilliland. Gilliland going to be back on the attack of the 13 of David Comstock, but David doesn't have to roll over and let him have the position, so that he might have a faster car or 2 cars behind him, and especially with the run that he's on, he's obviously slid back through the field on the older tires, but if you're David Comstock, you do not have to let him have the position. And I think Adam Gilliland's going to try to find a way around without A, wrecking the 13 car, and B, as we saw with that little off a couple of laps ago, wrecking himself. And there he goes, just drives it into the back of the 13. He had a great run off the corner. Comstock didn't get out of the bus stop, and Adam just, it's nowhere to go.
More conventional line for Comstock through the bus stop. Adam, he cut the corners, cut the grass, and the car hopped through, but he carried a lot of speed. He almost punted himself right into the back bumper. And if I'm Comstock, I'm not looking at the back. I'm just going to run my line and be conservative and hope the cars behind me are not going to run me over. Gilliland, his laps have not been consistent. High, low, jumping the curbs or whatever, just thrashing to see if he can get by here. Be a little nervous I was Comstock watching the replay, but right now he's just looking out the windshield trying to get the job done.
The problem David is having right now is coming out of these corners. You saw it in turn 1. You saw it out of the bus stop. He just can't put the power down, it seems like, compared to Adam Fuller and Pedro Mojica are now behind him in this battle. He just can't get on the throttle quick enough in order to get, the launch that he needs to up out of these corners. And that's where Adam Gilliland's going to get him. We'll see right here. Adam is smooth into the braking zone. You can see it right here. He catches right back up to the 13 of Comstock. Gets right there, gets that power. Comstock was a little bit sideways out of the bus stop. Adam Gilliland was smooth, and they continue to battle for this spot.
Wonder what's going on in the mind of the guy right behind him. Justin Fuller watches all that. This time I think Gilliland's going to charge down underneath and try and outbrake him going into turn number 6. He's got the line. Will Comstock be able to drive through? They head to turn 7, final quarter on the course. Comstock still hangs his stuff inside. Their side-by-side drag race down the front stretch. Comstock's going to have the preferred line, but Gilliland has momentum off, and he's going to finally, after all that work, execute the pass.
Yeah, David got the curb down there in the final corner and isn't able to turn here. Here goes Fuller. Fuller's going to go down to the inside, and I don't know if David gave up the ghost here, or is he going to be able to challenge Fuller. Fuller's going to get by. We'll see if he can get back up through the hill, through the S's to get to the 51 car, but the one thing I think is going to stand out in my mind, when Adam was working through this traffic the first time, before he got to David Comstock, the gap between himself and the leader was like a 7 to 8 second gap as Pedro Mojica now takes a look. at the 13 car for what would be position number 7, but it was about 8 seconds or so, Kevin, and now the gap is over 16 seconds between himself and Daniel Falkingham. I think if you were to put Adam and Daniel mono on mono, I think it would be a very close race up in front. But with 16 seconds, no cautions, and less than 40 laps to go, or just over 30 laps to go, 33 this time by, it's going to be a long road for Adam Gilliland to get up there. He should be able to get up to third at least, but we'll see how this all shakes out for him.
Yeah, no doubt. And the ebb and flow of Falkingham, all season long, we've seen him jump out and then kind of back himself up. But right now, 0.5 second lead, 4.6 over Kevin King. And he has turned up the wick even more. Falkingham consistently has been beating King 0.2, 0.3 each lap. I have to look back at Trey Edson, though, and say he's putting down some quick laps running in third.
Yeah, absolutely. He's running some quick laps right now and staying ahead of Byron Daly and Adam Gilliland and just trying to maintain that position. Top two have broken away, and now we're starting to see a little bit less of battles on this racetrack. I think the closest battle we saw besides the one we've been covering, Mike Kelly has a little bit of company with Brian Macklin right in behind him, so we'll keep an eye maybe on that throughout. There's the battle right there as Macklin tries to get ninth.
Macklin charges to the back bumper of the Verizon 4, right to the back, just trying to see if he can get the right line going in or get a good run coming off and take over that position. They're running nose to tail as they come back to the stripe to complete lap number 18. And yeah, there's little tussles. That's one thing that is not evident sometimes is how much work these drivers do is cars violently going over that curbing over there in turn 1.
And there goes the 30 to the inside to pick up that position on Kelly and move Brian Macklin up one spot. And that's all it really takes is that you get on that curb, or like Mike Kelly right there, you kind of slide the rear end into the corner a little bit. And it's that one little slip. It's that one little mistake that you're going to lose. It might be hundreds of seconds. It might be tenths of seconds. But considering the way these road course races work, that's almost an eternity compared to what it could be, as E.J. O'Rourke has got by Bob Gillenwater in behind and now goes to Mike Kelly's inside to try to pick up one more spot. So Mike Kelly not having a great lap here as he loses one to Macklin and loses one more to E.J. And Robert Gillenwater right in behind him. And Tyler Dalton, who had a great qualifying effort, still hanging around in the top 15.
As this race progresses, I want to talk a little bit about the point championship. Falkingham is out front of Byron Daly by 119 markers. Pedro Hica, Josh Parker, Adam Gilliland are your top 5. E.J. O'Rourke tied with Adam for that. Now, of course, they're going to have drop races and people on vacation and such, so these point championship things, the standings are subject to change. Looking a little deeper in the field, 16th, Kevin King is working his way. He's right behind Elliot Henderson, trying to break his way into the top 15. And a couple drivers not making the call here tonight. Kevin Brown, 10th in points. I don't believe he's in the field here, is he?
It doesn't look like that he is, and definitely not here this evening. So that would be one of his drops that he would have to use going into the playoffs. And you don't want to have to use those if you don't want to, but I guess if you're going to use one, a road course is probably the best place to use one if you're a guy like Kevin Brown. We're seeing battles all over this racetrack. E.J. O'Rourke's going to pick up one on Brian Macklin back here at 9th place. And Macklin was all kinds of out of shape out of the corner and loses his spot to E.J. Now E.J.'s going to give the mistake right back. Here comes Brian Macklin one more time.
Yeah, and a good battle right here for 5th, 6th, and such. Fuller has the 13 of Comstock down underneath him. Once again, these two side-by-side going through turn number 1. Comstock is on the preferred line heading into the turn. He's going to hold the 51 out wide going in through the S's. Clear him, going to come in. He's got the lap car of Randy Yoakum right in front of him. It's going to give him a little shot. Please give me the line as he circles to the outside. That's going to allow Fuller to careen off of him, and there goes Pedro. So the three of them under a blanket as they head into the bus stop with Randy being the pinball. And wow, this is going to get really interesting right here for 6th, 7th, and 8th.
Yeah, and David Comstock and Justin Fuller, there is no love loss in between those two, and we both have seen so far this year that they both can be aggressive. Pedro Mojica right now just kind of along for the ride in this battle as they work down, and Randy Yoakum has a, I'm going to say front row seat, but he's got a seat for what happens here in front of him as David Comstock trying left and right of the personal comfort number 51 to try to get by him, and we'll try one more time through the final corner here to get by the 51 of Fuller, but doesn't get the run that he needs to off the corner. Fuller going to maintain. Little slide, though, off the corner as the 13 goes to the inside, or at least attempts to here. This could be big down into corner number 1. How hard does he lick the stamp down here to turn number 1? Gets into the curb, and it looked like he was positioning himself to give the 51 a little bit of love on the back, but that curb definitely hindered his progress a little bit on that.
Yeah, you can now see the roles reversed, right? And whether there's a defensive drive. When they went down into turn number 6 last time, the 51 off the line to the inside, protecting that turn in from Comstock, where the 58 of Mojica was out getting the best apex. He's got the fastest, smoothest line, but I think he's trying to be very cognizant of these drivers right in front of him and whether they're going to screw something up that are going to take him out.
Yeah, you definitely don't want to make that mistake, and don't want to make that mistake and cost not only yourself but others around you, not just the guy you get into a position and a shot at, a top 10 run or a top 5 run. At least these drivers here that are battling for the spot, this is the battle for 6. If something happens to one of those top 5 up in front of them, then they're going to have an opportunity to finish in the top 5. We should see pit stops here for your leaders within the next couple of laps as we're getting ready to cross the halfway point in this race. We saw Joey Gattina and a couple of others already blip down pit road. And there's the battle right there as the 13 goes to the inside and tries to take that spot away. And there's the 41 of EJ. They're all battling all throughout this racetrack, and it looks like Fuller going to lose that spot to David Comstock. He's going to be aggressive. He's going to hang right on the left rear quarter. There's some aggressive racing. Oh, there it is.
And Comstock around. Eventually this was going to end up being one of those Keselowski Busch. And yep, there's the 58. Got tangled up in it. What a shame for Pedro.
And I don't know if Paul can get a replay of what happened there, but it just looked like the 51 was aggressive. Just doesn't surprise us. We're going to back this up and take a look at it. Paul, we might have to take a couple of more looks at this, but let's get your opinion on this first before I shoot mine at you.
Yeah, heavy racing between these guys, and they know we're coming up on halfway, coming up on green flag pit stops. You made mention we've already seen a couple of guys come on down pit road to get service to these machines, and these guys know that time is really running out, and you can see here's the battle coming up through the S's here up in the hill. The 13 kind of going back and forth with the personal comfort ride, and Pedro Mojica just trying to lag back and gets himself caught up in it. We'll back it up one more time here. Still green flag conditions. The blimp is a little bit too far away, but we can take a look from the chopper and see exactly what happened. And you can see it one more time here, back and forth between the 51 and the 13. The 51 a little bit squirrely there, comes across the nose of the 13 and collects the 58 of Mojica. So it's a tough break for both the 13 and the 58. It looks like the 51 was able to keep on, or the 41 rather, was able to keep on driving through that.
Yeah, I think the wreck actually, I don't want to say starts back in turn number 1, but the aggression starts as you see them down on pit road right now. Fuller kind of hangs on that left rear quarter just a little bit long of the 13 of David Comstock, and Fuller has a moment, the 13 has a moment, they all come together. We kind of knew it was going to happen at some point, Kevin, knowing how aggressive that these drivers are, and knowing especially how there's no love lost in between Mr. Comstock and Mr. Fuller. We saw it a little bit earlier this season with another driver that's not here this evening, Josh Parker, in the 81, but the 23. But it's tough because these guys both want to win. They really don't care for each other in the back of their mind. But at the end of the day, it's a tough break for Pedro Mojica because Pedro gets swept up in this, and he was an innocent bystander in all this battle.
I think if Pedro goes back and looks at this, he's going to shake his head because you could see those two were racing like it was the last lap, giving no quarter to each other. It was inevitable that there was a high risk percentage that they were going to crash. especially when you saw them go the way they were going into those S-turns. The fact that Pedro, he had hung back for a little while. He almost had that spidey sense. For some reason, maybe he saw an opportunity or something and charged his way up in there. And unfortunately, got caught up in that mess. And that's just got to be utterly frustrating. As we're starting to see some drivers take advantage of pitting the 4. Scott Gillenwater was in, 37 of Elliot Henderson in. I think I saw the 38 of Chad Coleman on pit road too. So some of those drivers going in and taking the opportunity to pit here for the first time tonight.
Yeah, we are at the halfway point of this race. 25 laps completed and 25 laps to go at Watkins Glen. So you're at the point now where you can make it the rest of the distance for sure on fuel and tires because you've already gone this far. But now the question is, if you're Kevin King, do you come in a lap earlier to try to undercut Daniel Falkingham and try to make up almost 6 seconds now? It was 4 for most of this run. Last couple laps, Daniel Falkingham has kind of turned the wick up a little bit when it came to the lap times, but we'll see when Falkingham comes down and see if Kevin King can, even if you can undercut him by a lap, I don't think you're going to get 6 seconds on the undercut, but you might get enough to get yourself a little bit closer, and you might be able to turn that wick up just a little bit. As Falkingham, is he going to come down pit road this time? No, he's not. Falkingham stays out on the racetrack, and Kevin King is going to bypass pit road this time as well, so there's going to be no undercut, at least in this lap.
Yeah, if I'm King, I'm going to do something that Daniel's not and see if that provides any advantage. Certainly he's not going to lose any time because no cautions here. Maybe those fresh tires for a lap will help him even something out. Really, he just has to hope that the 39 has an off or does something that allows him to catch back up, because consistently he's just been like a robot. Daniel Falkingham's time has not fallen off that much, and he's just put every corner perfect as he goes through the bus stop. The other thing that I notice is while he's using some of the curving, he's not as aggressive as some of these other guys. He's just using the curving to help turn the car, letting the car float through. He's getting a clean drive off. He's straight. The car's not wiggling all over the place. I mean, that 39 looks like textbook Watkins Glen here tonight.
Yeah, he's been picking up and laying down some really quick laps here throughout. As you see, the 99, I believe that is a Tommy Rhyne on pit road to get service to his race car winner last week, Tyler Dalton. Also going to come down into pit road, and you can see the damage to the Snap Mobile number 13 of David Comstock, who still sits on pit road, and I'm sure he's steaming just a little bit after what had happened. As Falkingham and King both stay out in the racetrack, they complete 27 on the racetrack. Trey Edson still has yet to come down pit road. Byron Daly, Adam Gilliland, they've been your top 5. They still stay on the racetrack so far, at least in this run, with Justin Fuller and E.J. O'Rourke behind them outside the top 5.
King rolls through turn number 1, out of turn 2. Tyler Dalton exits the pits, but he's down low. No problem there in competition for the line. You know, I think at the end, when we get a chance to talk to Falkingham and King, if that's the way fate has it, you're going to find out that Falkingham has a lot of joy for this track, and King is putting in laps, unlike Sonoma, where just it felt like Kevin was really pleased with the way things are going. I think tonight he's just doing yeoman's work, and I don't know that he has as much joy as Daniel does for this place.
No, but it's still a solid second-place run, at least at this point. We know Daniel Falkingham, at least stopwatch-wise, in the last little while, has been faster than Kevin King. Tenths of a second a lap, and it might not be a whole lot, but when you add 28 laps at tenths of seconds up, it does add up at the end of the race. Top 2 stay out in the racetrack. They will complete 28 on the racetrack, so 22 laps remaining as this field continues to buzz around Watkins Glen, and Trey Edson stays out in the racetrack as well, as does Byron Daly. So top 4 once again staying out of pit road and staying on the racetrack here.
Yeah, a moment a second ago for the 37 of Elliot Henderson had a short off. Got tagged with Richard Beasley coming up through the S's. Beasley lost control. Henderson just gave him a little nudge, went out, plowed the grass a little bit, but able to gather a handful again at that same spot where Fuller had his off and get the car straightened out. Maybe a little damage to the right front, but Beasley, he did the washing machine tide ride over there.
Yeah, Richard Beasley has struggled at these road courses. Let's just put it that way. And for a driver who's trying to get himself into the top 16, hasn't been the easiest of efforts this season for Mr. Beasley in the number 10 is the Verdane SIM500 Super Speedway champion struggles a little bit at these bigger courses as Kevin King stays out in the racetrack, but new retires in behind him. That's Tyler Dalton, and Dalton will look to work by the team J Concepts number 88.
Sure. Well, you can go back and take a peek at that incident over there. And Bob Gillenwater had a decision to make. The 10 was rotating like a helicopter in the middle of the track. And when he stopped, you weren't sure whether he was going to dart right, left. Bob just kind of made a beeline to the right, went through the grass, glanced off the guardrail, and just kept his foot in it and kept it going there. And that was a pretty interesting moment there for Mr. Gillenwater, but holding on to that 11th place position right now.
Yeah, absolutely. As you see Tyler Dalton on your screen, that is one of the drivers with new tires on his race car, and you can see the new tire difference compared to what Kevin King has on his race car. And, you know, Daniel Falkingham, Kevin King staying under the racetrack, this, you might think, okay, well, the older or the newer tires are going to prevail, and we're going to see some loud traffic go through and what have you. But when Daniel Falkingham does decide to peel on to pit road, he's going to take a lighter fuel load than some of these drivers already have in their race cars. So there's an advantage to that as well. As much as the advantage of new tires would be great, you keep going on the racetrack, and here comes the undercut. Kevin King's coming on the pit road in the 88 car, so the less fuel is an advantage, but we'll see what tires can do. And I think Kevin might have saw that with Tyler Dalton saying, hey, those new tires look pretty good. Let's come down and get some of our own.
PJ O'Rourke over there in the S's tagged the... Wow, that was just a moment there. Tagged the curbing, slid sideways, grabbed the gear, went through the grass, and was able to get it. All the cars struck by. Glazer, Henderson, Gillenwater, Macklin, Smith Jr., all struck by. Nobody got contact, but tense moments over there for the number 41.
Yeah, we're still having a moment when we got the camera on him, too, just trying to keep that thing figured out, per se, as he goes to the outside now, the 87, and EJ is DJ. He's trying to get around as well as he can, and he's still trying to hold on to a top 10 run as he closes in on what would be, I believe that's Tommy Rhyne in front of him in the 99 car. He's had a moment, let's put it that way.
Smith Jr. makes that right-hand turn, currently running in 20th position, heading down to his pit stall. You just have to look at the timer here. Look at the stopwatch. 1:13:44 for Falkingham his last lap. Everybody else who's been in for service, they're not running as fast as him, and he's on 50-lap old tires. Just astonishing how fast he is here.
There's Transen down on pit road trying to get service to his race car. Daniel Falkingham is on pit road as well, getting service to the 39. So keep an eye on this Kevin King car. We'll see where he comes out on pit road compared to Falkingham. Falkingham is already down and away from his box. Kevin King is roaring down the front straightaway. So I think Daniel Falkingham, by the time he gets up to speed, is still going to be the leader. It's going to be less than that 6 seconds that he had before. He almost catches Jeff Rhyne at the wrong spot. And now Kevin King is going to have to deal with the 3-car of Jeff Rhyne in between himself and Daniel Falkingham. But Falkingham still does have the advantage. You can see it on the track map above. There's still a lot of time between Kevin King and Daniel Falkingham. Kevin King tried to get that undercut. It's 6 seconds almost. So he gained a second or so, but that's about it.
And just not much to be said about that as to how impressive that 39 is, and you have to wonder how much faster he'll be on fresh tires, as the entire field has been to pit road. There's no drivers left. Everybody has been in. Fastest lap that time by EJ O'Rourke, 1:12:44. And you start to look at who's coming and going. Adam Gillen, we documented his story earlier, 15 positions up, currently in the 5th position, right behind Byron Daly. The biggest drop, Tyler Dalton, 11 positions down, currently running in 15th. Pedro Mojica from the damage earlier, down 9 positions. Good solid run for Bentley Glazer, currently running 12th, up 7 positions. And yeah, this is the story of road course racing with no caution. Some will come, some will go.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're in the second half of this race. And usually you say on an oval race, what can be done in the first can be undone in the second half of the race. But We also have cautions and, breathers to catch up and what have you, but don't really have that advantage. We're going to have a battle for third before this thing is all said and done. You see it on your screen. This is technically the battle for fourth and Trey Edson up the road in third. But this is going to be a little bit of a show before this thing is all said and done, because we still believe Adam Gilliland probably has a third-place race car right now based on where he started this race qualifying-wise. But he's going to get by Byron, he's going to get by Trey, and that's going to be easier said than done.
You give a call to Mike Kelly. Mike, currently running in that 7th position, a seasoned veteran. It's not a surprise that he'd be racing Watkins Glen with a little spring in his step. He's been here so many different times. Over a decade he's been racing, and he looks like he's got this racetrack on lock. Looks pretty comfortable. The car is straight through the corners. He's hitting the apex correctly. Good drive off for the car. A little wiggle here and there, but for the most part, very competitive mount underneath that number 2 tonight.
Yeah, absolutely. There's some really good drivers with some really good runs here this evening. The 81 of Adam Gilliland still looking over the Valvoline, number 33 of Byron Daly as they battle it out for that spot. You ride on board with the Gary Mercer Trucking Personal Comfort number 81 as Gilliland tries to get up to Byron Daly up the hill and through the S's, but Daly's really good here in this section of the racetrack. It's a matter of Adam Gilliland on these heavy braking zones. Right here, look at this. Look at this run that he gets in. Tries to send it in on Byron. Oh, maybe a little bit too much into the grass. Yeah, okay. Well, he got a little bit too much on that effort, but he has been really, really good on these heavy braking zones. And Adam's made up all that time, but now he's going to have to make up a little bit more. The good news is that he's got 16 laps to get it done.
So a little Cooley and the gang over there, a little reggae dancing through that corner, man. He had that back end way out. I think he was just trying to keep from running the 33 over. I don't know. I see him running so fast through that bus stop. Sometimes he's not quite sure how fast he's going to get through there compared to his competition. And in that one, he missed that out of the bus stop. But boy, he makes some fast time through there.
Absolutely, he does. As they put a lap on one of the slower cars here, as you continue to look around this racetrack. That's Elliot Henderson and Tommy Rhyne on your screen, and that it would be a battle for position number 11, and I think that's going to be a battle before this one is all said and done. And just in front of them, there's a couple of, I don't want to say battles, but I think if somebody makes a mistake or they get a little bit closer, you see EJ O'Rourke trying to close up on Robert Gillenwater. Gillenwater about a second back from Brian Macklin. And then Macklin about 3 seconds or so back from Mike Kelly, who's kind of running on his own right now. Mike's got about 3 seconds to catch Justin Fuller, about 3 seconds back to Brian Macklin. So Fuller and Kelly pretty much have they kind of control their own destiny right now, if that makes any sense.
I got a shout to the 5 of Trey Edson, man. He's been on his game lately. He's just every week putting in solid performances as the season progresses, and currently running in 3rd position. And that car has just looked spectacular here. You got some fast cars right behind him in Daly and Gilliland, and Trey's been holding his own like the champion he is. He's coming on strong here as we get to the stretch season.
Yeah, coming down to the stretch, looking forward towards the playoffs. And you might think, okay, well, if you're locked into the playoffs, you got that win, you might not mean a whole lot, but you got to get that momentum to try to build as Trey Edson goes to the outside of the lap car of Randy Yoakum and nearly gets a little too much that he bargained for. But you kind of need that momentum. Get it on your side, get a couple of good finishes, and that might be why you're thinking, hey, Kevin King is locked into the position he's in. He's been a road course king, second place. You might not want to run second place, but you get a couple of podium efforts. You get the momentum, and you roll into the playoffs like that. And that's going to be the story heading into the months of September, October, and November to try to crown a champion here in this Transervice Cup Series. As the leaders come back across the stripe, 36 laps completed, 14 laps remaining here at Watkins Glen.
Yeah, one of the things the final standing is going to show, and you have to make a note in the notebook, is the strength of David Comstock. He had such a good run in that first half of the race. Currently scored 23rd, 3 laps down. I believe he stayed in there and got a lot of the damage fixed. He probably had minutes worth. And he's just going to soldier on and get himself some points, some finish here. But it doesn't reflect on how well he ran in that incident over there with Fuller. And Fuller currently running in the 6th position. You have to wonder if those two are going to have a chat after this thing's over.
They continue to battle for this third place position. Trey Edson trying to hold off Byron Daly. Daly gets by the lap car and took a little look. That was about it. And Adam Gilliland has reeled these guys back in from where he was from that slide from the bus stop about 3 laps ago. So again, we've got the accordion coming back together at the battle for position number 3 with Trey Edson holding court over Byron Daly and Adam Gilliland as they run down towards the final couple of corners. They'll have 13 laps to go this time by.
81. Adam Gilliland ran the fastest lap on the racetrack. We'll see whether that's going to register again here as they come across the start-finish line. They are running nose to tail. Gilliland, to your point, has caught the 33 of Byron Daly. We'll see whether he's going to try to outbreak him going in here to turn number 1. And nope, he's going to swing wide, use the apex to carry all the speed to get to the back bumper. Be interesting to see what happens over here in the bus stop where he's been consistently faster. He is right on the back bumper, pressing, going through the S's. He lost a little bit in there and hops the curb, and that's going to open the gap up. So it just feels like the aggression level for Gilliland has not been his friend when he looks back at this, but he's certainly got the speed.
Yeah, absolutely he does. And we go throughout this field. You see Robert Gillenwater on your screen. He's running in position number 10, trying to catch up to the battle in front of him. And it's technically not a battle for position. It's the 43 of Doug Roth going a lap down to EJ O'Rourke. But you look through this field, and there's going to be some drivers that are going to be happy with their effort because when we come to a road course, they might not expect to, maybe necessarily be in the top 10 or top 15. And then you're going to see some guys like David Comstock on the standings, as we alluded to earlier, that's not going to have the greatest run in the world, and after running up in the top 5, he's going to want a little bit more out of the effort that he currently has sitting back there in 23rd position. So there's some comers and some goers. There's some positives and negatives. Daniel Falkingham has been the driver to beat all night long, though, and he continues to lead. And this time by, he'll come back up and see 11 laps to go.
Got to give a nod to the tap-out tuning crew of Pedro Mojica. Boy, they got that car going at minimum race speed. The front end of the car is completely missing. If you watch it from the one camera view, you could see how all the suspension and gearing works, staggering the car, the camber in the car. But Pedro soldiering on after that unfortunate incident. 16th place, that's still a pretty respectable run on the lead lap for the 58.
Yeah, doing a great job with what he has. And we mentioned earlier about the incident and him getting swept up in it, but with this road course, with there being no cautions, you kind of have to be as patiently aggressive as you can to make sure that you don't lose any more time. And it was the gamble that he took, as you see Kevin King on your screen in the 88 car. Continuing to work around here with 11 laps remaining in this race, and Kevin trying to, I think at least at this point, it might be a conservation. Keep it on the racetrack. Finish in position number 2. You're not catching Daniel Falkingham. The leaders behind you, or the third place driver behind you, is not catching you. So I don't know if there's the strategy I would think right now, Kevin, for Kevin King would be to maintain what you have.
Yeah, I suspect that Daniel Falkingham's going to have a petition to run this racetrack every week. Just the Watkins Glen SIM500 Transervice series, brought to you by Watkins Glen International, because he is just unstoppable here. I knew he was going to be good at this racetrack, but just incredible to watch him race. It's almost like a ballet as he cuts through the corners.
Yeah, he's putting on an effort, and it's almost like it's a flawless effort. There's no, it just looks so smooth. It's easier said than done, obviously, but you can see right here, there's no jerk of the wheel, there's no slide, there's I don't want to say there's no effort, but he makes it look so easy around this racetrack, and with 10 laps to go, just trying to get it there the rest of the way as he comes up. I believe that's Richard Beasley in front of him.
Yeah, Daniel, he's got the right position for that right front tire, left front tire, every entry of the corner. He's got the perfect apex, lets the car drift off. He gets right to the edge of the grass where he needs to be, gets the right braking point. I was amazed they come down here to where the netting stops on the fence on the right-hand side before they ease out. it shows you how much speed they carry and how deep they drive it into the corner. Stand on those brakes, get the car slowed down, don't slide the left front tire as you're turning in, and just hit that turn absolutely perfect. A lot of drivers are going to come back and watch this replay and try to see where they are losing time to this 39, because he's putting on a clinic here tonight at Watkins, Glen.
Well, some will look back at it and try to figure out as Adam Gilliland slides that thing on the out of that corner, trying to get up to Trey Edson, that it will be a battle for third before this one's all said and done, as he got by Byron Daly. Yeah, some will look back at this and try to figure out, hey, Daniel's quicker than me in the bus stop, or quicker than me in the S's, or coming up to the final couple of corners, or he brakes later going into turn number one, or you get those points and try to figure out where he's quicker than you. Some of them will say, hey, we're not coming back to Watkins Glen next year. Get me the hell out of this racetrack. So there's going to be a couple of sides of this story, but Daniel Falkingham still pulling away. It's now 8 seconds, over 8 seconds between himself and Kevin King.
I'm going to date myself, but I go back to the NASCAR 2003 when we raced with Ray Afala, and he used to do this to us, and used to try and deconstruct the replays and see where Ray was fast. You could see where he's fast, but even when you knew his secrets, you could not drive it into the corner the way he did. I just could never figure out how he cut the corners and got the braking the way he did. And even if you did study the film, it's not like you could reproduce it.
We can sit here all day long and say, okay, this is what Daniel Falkingham is doing into turn one, or he's coming up the hill right now. He's got, whoa, where is Brian Macklin going? That was not great. Apparently the Monster Jam is in town, and apparently he's auditioning because that Transervice car is a little bit off the ground trying to do a wheelie there throughout the grass. But that would be for position number 8, or was for position number 8. Lost one spot there to E.J. O'Rourke and trying to keep ahead of Robert Gillenwater. But back to my point, we can say all day that Daniel Falkingham's doing this or doing that and, dissect the replay. But if you're a driver, you've got to get back in the race car and do it all your own. That's easier said than done, trying to keep up with Falkingham as he'll come by out of these final couple of corners and see 7 laps to go this next time by.
Yeah, that takes nothing away from the effort of King, Edson, and some of these other guys who are just incredible in their own right. That almost shines the spotlight on how good Falkingham's run is. And you look at something like Brian Macklin, car steps out, he goes through the grass, catches the curb, goes off or whatever. We didn't talk about this dynamic, but it's a lot of work. You're shifting all the way through, you're making all these turns, you're trying to visualize the entry, maybe you're trying to sneak a little faster into a corner and you miss it. As the race goes on, there is a fatigue factor to this.
Oh, absolutely, there is 100%. There's a fatigue factor right there for Tyler Dalton into the Armco and the bus stop, and that's not going to help his effort already. Or just got back on the lead lap before the pit stops, and he may end up a lap down before this thing is all said and done. Not a great night for Tyler Dalton, who'll be in 15th place right now. But it's one of those nights where you look at Kevin King and you say, 8 seconds behind. It's over 44 laps, so it's tenths of a second a lap. Kevin's been faster than Daniel on some of those laps, and there's some laps where Daniel just turns up the wick and is just smooth. And I think for those top two, I think it's conservation mode for this battle for position number 3. Yes, they are de facto teammates. They work on the same team, but when you put the helmet on, you still got to make that position. Both of them kind of locked into the playoffs with the way the wind falls and everything else, but Adam wants one more spot. This is the final podium position here for the Transervice Cup Series at Watkins Glen. He wants to step up and get that one more spot.
Yeah, and King is 8 seconds ahead of these guys. So, as much as King is behind Falkingham, these guys are behind him by 8 seconds. And Gilliland would love to be able to get around and see if he could chase King down and erase that deficit. Comes down here into turn 1, hard braking to turn into the corner. Turns in a little deeper. He's going to see if he could drive down underneath the 5, and 5 drifted up just a little bit, opened the door. Adam Gilliland going to scoot by here. Now he comes through the S's to turn 2, 3, now to 4. On that backstretch heading to the inner loop, and he's going to take over that position as he's got 3 car lengths over Trey Edson going into the bus stop.
I think the one thing that we saw on the onboard of that pass, or at least to set it up, is Adam was kind of, I don't want to say glued to that curb. He was on the curb. It didn't upset the race car. Trey kind of entered about a groove and a half up compared to where Adam was, and that drifting out that you mentioned, trying to get that run off the corner was just a little too much as that pass is made, and you can see that Adam continues to pull away from Trey and the rest as the leader has taken 5 laps remaining in this event. He just put a lap on Tyler Dalton, did Daniel Falkingham, so 15 drivers, or check that, 14 drivers remain on the lead lap as we work through here. And for Daniel Falkingham, he may have to put up with Chad Coleman before this thing is all said and done. The tap-out tuning number 38. Again, there's a driver that's not really accustomed to road courses, as Randy Yoakum ahead of the 88, and I believe is that the 13 of David Comstock maybe in behind, trying to get what he can out of the rest of this race. But there's some drivers that aren't accustomed to these road courses, and for a guy like Chad Coleman to finish in the top 15, if that's where he stays tonight, he's doing a great job.
Looking at the way Trey Etzen drove that turn a moment ago, sometimes you allow the car to sweep out so it doesn't bind the car up, but sometimes you just let the car drift too far that you're actually losing time. The 30 of Macklin goes through turn 1, lets the car drift way out, comes across, misses the curbing, but that allowed Bob Gillenwitter, who took the turn a little shallower, to gain in on him here. As they come through the S's, Gillenwater currently in 10th, hunting that 9th position from Macklin, and I think we're going to have a little tussle here before this race is over.
Yeah, this one is far from over. There, Brian Macklin's had a couple of offs. Brian's been trying to defend, and the problem, I don't want to say the problem with some of these guys, but the issue that they're having maybe at the back of this field after being in these cars for the last hour or so and trying to keep your focus remain. Yeah, you only got 4 laps left, but it's still another 5 minutes per se sitting in these race cars. You've got to make sure you maintain your focus. And if you lose focus, in the case of the Transervice number 30, Robert Gillenwater is going to be right there.
Sometimes you're in your head, you're like, I know I could get a better lap. I can cut that corner a little better. And other times you're like, God, just don't let me screw up. Let me get to the finish. Please let me hit all the apexes, racing gods. I wanted this position, but don't let me screw up. Don't beat yourself, right?
Absolutely. As there goes the 2 to the outside, that is Kelly and E.J. O'Rourke battling for position, and E.J. will take position number 7 and try to set his sights on, I would say, probably at this point, defending away from Mike Kelly, because Mike Kelly is going to put up a fight going on the left rear quarter here and trying to drag race down to the inner loop. But battle for 7th, ways up the road to catch 6, and this might be all they're fighting for here at the end as E.J. hops the curb and tries to get by Mike Kelly. Kelly defends.
You know, one of the differences between this league and another league is some drivers would just let that go, pull in behind, and then look to see if they can make the advantage. Mike Kelly, nope, he's going to drive back in there and see if he can get that position. These guys trust each other to race that way, and it is special to race in this league because you have guys with the talent like Kelly who could pull back in, E.J. O'Rourke who runs side by side with him going through the bus stop and all that. It's so much fun to race with these guys when they run this way.
Absolutely.
When it goes right.
Absolutely. It's fun to watch, too. Like you got a 4-car battle coming down at the end of this shore. It's not for the lead. It's not for a top 5 position. But it's fun to see these guys go at it. And, you know, they've had their mistakes this evening. They've had their offs. They've had their moments. EJ going to go to the inside of Mike for that position, or at least try to, down into turn number 2, but not going to be able to get there. These guys are having fun, and we're having fun watching and covering this battle as they continue to work on here. EJ trying to get what he can here. He's going to have to be aggressive in these next 2 laps to try to get by Mike Kelly and hope to squirt by and not have Brian Macklin follow him through and not have Robert Gillenwater follow him through.
Update our leader battle here is, well, Daniel Falkingham down the backstretch through the bus stop, heading off to the carousel. Still no wheels off, currently 10 seconds off over Kevin King, and just continues to put a spanking on this field. I always wondered where he comes through that area there, if it would have been cool to open up the back part of this racetrack and run that little boot. You ever raced that before?
Yeah, I have, and it's a neat concept. It's technical as EJ O'Rourke goes to the outside. Speaking of technical, he's going to try the outside of turn number 1 on Kelly to try to pick up this position, and he might have it here. Look at the run that he gets out of the turn number 1, and EJ O'Rourke picks it up, and now we'll see if Macklin can do anything to the two of Mike Kelly as Daniel Falkingham has taken the white flag lap. Final lap here at Watkins Glen. This is going to be the battle here, though, coming down to the stripe at the end of this one. 4 cars going for position number 7. EJ O'Rourke has a look at Macklin, sail it in, and that's not going to work. He's going to hit the curb up the hill. Tommy Rhyne goes by, and Bob Gillenwater goes by, and that's not great for Brian Macklin. These drivers here are going to come up to the white flag this time, so they're still going to have one more lap as Falkingham is probably going to finish in the next 20 seconds or so. This battle's still going to go on for a little while.
Good sense of mind there for Tommy Rhyne to understand what was going to happen. You could see Macklin was going to miss the corner, backed it out a little bit, but then drove it through and get down underneath him. Here comes Daniel Falkingham down into turn number 6 for the last time. Makes that last corner here to turn number 7. You can see the checkered flag when he comes to the front straightaway here. It is a dominating performance for Lobster 207. It is Daniel Falkingham with the victory here at Watkins Glen.
It's going to be Kevin King coming home in second, and then Adam Gilliland, Trey Edson a little bit later on down the line. But see if we can focus on this battle for what's going to be position number 8. EJ O'Rourke's been able to pull away a little bit over Tommy Rhyne and Mike Kelly. It's not as much of a battle as it is now. It's now between Gillenwater and Macklin. Is Macklin going to lose it? That's it. He's done for the night. Bob Gillenwater is about to say Bob was right up on these guys in front of him, but he went down into turn 1 on the last lap and had a 4-wheel drift and was able to lose any momentum that he was going to get. So unless something happens here with EJ O'Rourke and Tommy Rhyne, this battle for 7th kind of subsided itself and kind of decided itself as it came towards the white flag. EJ O'Rourke is going to come up out of the final corner, and he is going to pilot that personal comfort number 41 to a top 7 effort.
Yeah, no, not the last week winner, Tommy Rhyne. He was running in the 10th to 15th position, but just kept the car straight, heading in the right direction. He's going to lock in a solid 8th place finish to back up his win from last week.
So a great effort overall by these Transervice Cup Series drivers, and Daniel Falkingham once again putting on an absolute clinic. There's Kevin King coming over and, virtual hand out the window, congratulate him on the effort. But Falkingham, after he and Kevin King and even Adam Gilliland have gone back and forth in these road courses, Daniel Falkingham finally gets a big win here, as you see the top 16 on your screen. And Falkingham, King, Gilliland, we expected those drivers. Adam started at the back of the field. Would have been cool to see if he would have had anything for these drivers up in front of him for at least a second or first place effort. But overall, Adam Gilliland had to dig deep here tonight.
13th place for Brian Macklin after he was off over there. As he came across the line, Chad Coleman gave him a little boot as a fun little send-off. But out front, Falkingham just kind of cruising the racetrack. Now he's going to burn him down for the fans on the front straightaway. We'll get to talk to Daniel and Kevin and Adam Gilliland. What a charge through the field for that number 81 tonight.
Yeah, let's chat with Adam Gilliland. Adam, I know the qualifying effort wasn't the one you desired. What happened during qualifying to put you back in 20th?
Well, the driver stepped on his you-know-what, Tim. Fortunately, we didn't get it done the first lap, and then we definitely didn't get it done the second lap. Got a little bit of an incident up the hill. But we made a lot of ground that first lap, 20th to 10th. I was feeling really, still pretty optimistic we might have a shot to get up to Daniel and Kevin. And I was passing for 3rd or 4th and made a mistake and overcooked it one time and got into David. And, that just spiraled everything and took me out of contention. But one of these times when we come to Watkins Glen, I feel like I might be able to put together a whole race and compete. This is definitely my best road course, and pretty bummed to come home with 3rd tonight, to be honest.
We saw you in Fuller battle with David Comstock, and you were able to kind of get by that battle until it exploded in behind you with the 13 and the 51. How aggressive was that battle? You obviously mentioned it is a turning point in this race to catch those two in front of you, but how aggressive was that battle from your standpoint?
It was very aggressive. We were all, sending it in on each other and making contact the first time I got in behind David, and I guess Trey was saying he had been braking earlier. Well, it caught me off guard, and I yanked it left to not run back from it. I pitched my car sideways. I tried to key up, and let him know that I was wrecking, and to give me a little bit extra space, I would have given the spot back. But he still ran the normal outside line, and we made contact, and rightfully so. He was upset, and raced me and blocked me a little bit, and then at that point I gave him one or two freebies, and after that it was about just getting by him because he was doing everything he can to hold me up because I messed up his race.
It's a great third place effort nonetheless after coming back from position number 20. Awesome show tonight. Who's on this race car? Who do you want to thank for the effort?
Yep, just got to thank Scott Sensel and Personal Comfort as always. Sucks he wasn't able to be here tonight. I know he really likes Watkins Glen. I got to thank Gary Mersh Trucking, everyone back at the team, Kevin. We got a Road to Pro race coming up on Thursday, so hopefully that goes good. And I got to thank all the boys back in TeamSpeak, Trey, Fuller, EJ, Macklin. And last but certainly not least, Vidane and you, Tim, for all the support over the years.
There you go. That's Adam Gilliland coming home in position number 3. We'll see you next week.
Sounds good.
Kevin, that's for the effort that he had tonight coming from 20th place. That was a great show. But I believe, Kevin, you've caught up with our winner, Daniel Falkingham.
Yep, Daniel Falkingham over here taking the strap off of his helmet, just kind of looking over at his crew, saying, yep, this is the way to do it. Daniel, you said you were going to be strong here. You had this one circled on your calendar, and you just looked incredibly fast here tonight.
Oh boy, I kind of surprised myself, honestly. I always circle all the road courses that we go to, but I didn't think we were gonna have the pace like that tonight. I mean, I like Watkins Glen, but I don't think it's one of my strongest road courses. But I definitely surprised myself tonight with how consistent we were. So it was definitely a heck of a race. I knew getting pole was vital, and I knew the race, whoever was going to come off turn 1 was probably going to win the race between me and Kevin, because I know Kevin's out dragged me on the start and probably every time we've been on the front row together. So this time I had to beat the turn 1, and we did. So thankfully we were able to control the race from there, and thankfully we were smooth sailing. So definitely found some confidence as that race went on, and I was able to build up my pace and stuff. But I'm very, very happy about that. Really surprised myself a lot.
In this race where there was no contest, the drivers went in, refreshed their tires at lap 50 and came out. You were still running lap times equal or better than them. Was there any place? I mean, we watched you all night long. It seemed completely uneventful. Any scares, any problems?
I think the only issues I might have had was with a few lap cards and stuff, but I didn't thankfully get any damage at all. But thankfully that was the only issues I've had. But just trying to get around them, and because I just get so hyped up on that stuff, because I know with me, I know Kevin has been insanely fast on the road courses lately, and I know whenever I caught lap traffic and stuff, I just lose a lot of time and stuff. But I didn't know how Kevin was going to be on the long runs tonight, so especially when I caught up to lap traffic and stuff, I would try to get around him as quickly as possible and not lose too much time, because all that time lost could mean everything. So pretty much that was the issue, just trying to get around lap cars tonight. But even when we get through the traffic and stuff, we were still pulling away. After that, I felt like as long as I just keep this thing on the track, we should take it to the winner's circle, and we did just that. And but definitely been needing this shot in the arm for sure ever since, because these last few weeks have been kind of rough. So good to get back to where we should be.
Win number 6 on the season, do you give that any mind, or are you just moving on to whatever is next week?
I'm not sure. It was cool to get another win again, but right now, that's what we're going to do, try to keep on winning. I mean, thankfully, surprised we got win number 5 tonight. Hopefully we can get win number 6 next week, but especially with these next 3 tracks, Indy, Michigan, and Daytona, it's going to be a huge draft fest and stuff, so it's going to be about how you make your moves and stuff. I feel it's going to be a game of chess these next 3 weeks. I mean, especially Michigan, in my opinion. But we'll look forward to Indy next week, and we'll see how we do. Kind of at this point, we're not running the road course there next week, but hey, it's the Oval, so it's no biggie. But I'm looking forward to see how we do there.
Helps you get it done, Daniel.
All right, thanks, Kevin. I also got to thank First Survey Labs 207 for all their support. I also got to thank you guys for putting on the broadcast. I got to thank all my teammates, team name, Chad Coleman, David Comstock, Byron Daly, Pedro Mojica, Richard Beasley. Everyone else who's part of this group. Also got to thank Transervice for sponsoring the series. Got to thank Joe Gattina and all the admins who run the show, SIM500. And got to thank Bill Schoonover Motorsports for the team challenge and stuff. Too bad Josh wasn't here again tonight, but thankfully we brought home the points and most importantly the win, so that's really cool. And yeah, thanks to all the fans who watch, and thanks to all my friends and family as well.
Yeah, congratulations, Daniel. I think a lot of drivers are going to look back at who dominated the race this season the most, and certainly this one's going to get circled. Thanks for stopping by, and go enjoy that victory.
I appreciate it, Kevin. Thanks, guys.
Tim Terry's caught up with our second place finisher, Kevin King.
Yeah, Kevin, it's not the win that I'm sure you wanted, but second place with the pace that you had has to feel refreshing. What else did you need to get up to Falkingham here tonight?
Honestly, he was a little quicker. I think we were pretty similar, but I was kind of cruising there to start the race, and he was gapping me like a second a lap, and I was like, oh, no big deal. Look, the tires are wear, and hopefully I get this back. And then I realized that when I ran FTF a couple weeks ago that for whatever reason, the tire doesn't fall off here. And I was looking at my lap time, so my fastest lap, the first lap, was like a half a second faster than his, but it wasn't going to do anything because I've given him 4 seconds at that point. So it's just I kind of just screwed up on the strategy. I just thought the tires would matter, and I gave him too much leeway. At that point, it was like I wasn't going to catch him, so I kind of just stuck with second. And after last week's debacle, figured I need to get some points. So didn't try to push the envelope too much. Kind of had fun. Just ran my pace. Was just out there cruising. So yeah, he was definitely quick. But I'm tired of road courses, so I'm glad this is over.
We kind of talked about in the second half of this race about, being in the top 20, you got a couple of wins, you're locked into the playoffs, but you mentioned the other side of it too. How vital is a second place effort at this point in the season going into the playoffs, knowing that you have the ticket punched?
Yeah, I mean, for me, it was good, just because I kind of screwed myself last week, and even though I'm, running relatively well and I have some wins under my belt, like I can't be complacent to just think that I can either win or finish last or whatever. So this week was really just about knowing kind of where my pace was. Knew it was pretty good. I mean, good enough to finish top second or top 2, top 3, whatever it was, but which is a lot better than like 25th or whatever I finished last week. So I just knew going in it was a good opportunity for me to gain a lot of points. Wasn't necessarily looking for the win because I got, I have those, so I got myself in the playoffs based off those, but I really needed to get back on the point collection train, and it was a good track for me to do that at. So yeah, it wasn't, my mindset wasn't necessarily to win the thing because that would have been really hard anyways, but it was definitely to not do what I did to the FTF guys a couple of weeks ago, but definitely just have a clean race and finish good.
3 races heading towards the playoffs, and Falkingham kind of mentioned it. We get rid of these road courses. We go to Indianapolis on the Oval, Michigan, and Daytona. What are your thoughts on those 3 racetracks coming up leading into the playoffs?
A lot of people don't really like Indy. I enjoy racing Indy. I think it shows like a lot of patience, a lot of technical prowess to get around there. It's not the easiest track to be fast for a long run. It's very difficult to keep running the same corners and doing all that fun stuff. But aero push is going to be a thing. The draft is going to be a thing. Track position, obviously, the leader's going to have a huge advantage. So, again, it's nothing where I need to win a race, but definitely just collect points. Top 10 would be great. Michigan's going to be a fun one. We'll be all over the place. All over the track trying to pass people. The draft will be huge. Interesting to see kind of what the aero push will do there. I haven't raced Michigan in quite some time. Then Daytona. I mean, Daytona's Daytona. I'll just watch Adam go up there and control the lanes and hopefully not get collected. But at that point, I feel like if I should be in a good enough spot to where if I'm collected, then it won't matter to me too much. So Indy and Michigan will be just kind of padding the points, and then maybe have some fun at Daytona and get ready for the playoffs. But I definitely do like those 2 tracks. Indy reminds me a lot like Phoenix, just the corners and how you take them. And, who doesn't like Michigan at that point, right? It's just one of the most fun tracks I've ever been a part of in sim racing. So those 2 will be fun. Then, Daytona, which everyone knows I'm not a big super speedway fan, so we'll see what happens.
Who do you have in this race car? Who do you want to thank for tonight's effort?
I want to thank you. I always forget you, and I'm not going to forget you this time. So appreciate you. J Concepts, Team Associated. Trying to think who else. The team, they have a big race this week. Hopefully that race was good practice for Adam. He's going to be doing some road course racing here this Thursday with him, Falkingham, Eberhardt, and Dylan C. Jones. So looking forward to that. You guys especially for having putting this on. The drivers, thanks for all the room. Definitely hectic when you have fresher tires and quicker speed. So otherwise, yeah, it's a pretty good race. Had fun. Glad it's over because I can stop worrying about road courses now and focus on the other stuff. So I'm looking forward to next week and beyond.
Another great effort. We'll see you next week.
Appreciate it, Tim.
That's Kevin King finishing in position number 2 here this evening. And Kevin England, final thoughts tonight. Watkins Glen in the rearview mirror. The only road course left is the Roval coming up in the playoffs. So we get to go back to ovals for a little bit and some big ovals coming up.
Yeah, I always get nostalgic coming to Watkins Glen and thinking about the history of who has raced here and what it means. And Buckingham wrote himself into the legends of this. And, the mix of tracks coming up is going to make it certainly interesting as we head to the championship stretch.
Absolutely, it is. And speaking about championship stretch, Paul, Verdane has got some busy races coming up. We got some things on the go. What's coming up?
Busy indeed. Always entertaining the masses throughout the real racing season here. A little bit light on the schedule, but starting to ramp things back up. This coming Thursday, we're back here at Watkins Glen with the Multi-League Cup Series after 2 weeks off, 30 laps at Watkins Glen, and they're getting close to their championship hunt as well. I believe they follow a very similar schedule here as SIM500, so really looking forward to that. And then they're going to be at the Indy Road Course next week, so that's going to be exciting. A couple of different styles of racing at Indianapolis Motor Speedway, but that's going to be Thursday night. Wednesday, Tim's Corner Motorsports bringing us Tim's Corner live after an off week last week. We got any guest line up, or are we still waiting for the ink to dry on that for this week, Tim?
It seems like in the summer that these guys are working on race cars and focused on other things. We've got a couple of irons in the fire, had some big winners this past weekend, and we're coming into a weekend where Petty Raceway is giving out $5,000 to win their street stock and $5,000 to win their late model sportsman division. So I'm sure we're going to have some talk about that this week. Speedway Mary Machine's coming up with an event as well, and the High Banked Half Mile at Lake Dowsett Motor Speedway is coming up this week. So we've got some content at least to talk about. We'll have some guests. We'll have a good time on Wednesday night.
100%. And then Wednesday night, the Loose Lugs Cup Series finally kicking off their next season. That's going to be the Fatheads Cup Series, rebranded and ready to rock and roll. 9:05 start time on Wednesday night, kicking off the season at Daytona. Really looking forward to getting those guys back. Trevor Absher, the young Trevor Absher, not even old enough to have a celebratory championship beer, I don't think. But in any sense, a great show those guys put on last season. Really looking forward to getting through the entire season with those guys this time around as well. And the Neps guys are coming back October 5th, going to be kicking it off at Daytona. And they just announced on their Facebook page about an hour ago that the throwback race is going to be January 20th. Hickory Motor Speedway just announced with iRacing coming out here in a massive content overhaul and release here. Hickory Motor Speedway coming out on iRacing. So be sure to check that out on iRacing.com, as well as a rain model. So that's going to be really exciting and definitely going to be one of the things we want to check out here on Verdane TV. So lots of openings coming up throughout there. You can see the schedule on your screen. Give us a shout. Give us a DM. Slide in our DMs, if you will. Let us know if you want to get your league covered. We do iRacing. We do NRO3. We do all sorts of racing stuff. And we do a lot of other games and simulations as well. So if you want to get your league or your competition on the internets and make sure everybody out there watch, give us a shout. We can definitely work with you. But I think that's going to do it here for us tonight. Everybody here at SIM500 for the Transervice Cup Series on Monday nights. We're going to be back here next week for Indianapolis, the Oval. And then next Thursday night, going to be the Indy Road Course with the Multi-League Cup Series. So going to be pretty cool to check that out. But for everybody at SIM500 Transervice Cup Series, Verdane TV, my name is Showtime Paul Strickland Jr. For Tim Terry, for Kevin England, and all of these drivers in the SIM500, thank you guys so much for tuning in on Twitch, on YouTube, on Facebook. Check us out on all the social media outlets. And be sure to swing on over to www.verdane.shop and pick up your Verdane TV merchandise, as well as rent a race car, Angry Tree Guy, Two Drunk Esports, all sorts of stuff going on in that shop. Be sure to check it out, the virtual Verdane TV merchandise booth, if you will. But we'll catch you guys on the flip side when we do. We're going to be doing it live.